Yeah, maybe policy-wise, I would do better under the Democrats or Bernie Sanders. But these other people just seem fucking crazy. They seem like committed to just going to absurd lengths just for shits and giggles, just for the fuck of it, just this bizarre attachment to things that are just ridiculous. To your point about, is he just crazy? When you meet him in person and spend that kind of time, and he's not on his his attack mode thing, he does not strike you as a crazy person, or a person who doesn't listen or can't hear things. Again, they were very mad at me for saying this, but that's what happened, and I am not a liar.
Bill Maher recently had a heated conversation with conservative commentator Tim P., and things got fiery fast. While you might assume the biggest clash would be between their opposing political views, surprisingly, Maher's sharpest criticism landed squarely on the Democrats. At this rate, it wouldn't be surprising if he switches allegiance and votes Republican in 2028. If you're here for fearless, unfiltered political takes, make sure to subscribe. And let's jump right into it.
I just don't feel like anybody in this country can even presume that what people think about them is anywhere near the truth. And if you do think that, you're very naive, and people are just going to want to believe. Somebody told me just the other day that, speaking of girlfriends, this one is funny. This one wasn't in that list, but they could have put it there. But they were out to dinner with a few people, and this person said that I used to date Ann Coulter.
I've heard that.
Which
I've heard it.
Okay, well, it's not true. And both of us would say that. Now, am I friends with her? Yes. And anyone who doesn't like that can go fuck themselves. I'll be friends with whoever I want. I think I proved that over and over again, including with Donald Trump. You know, I believe in talking to people. But it's not like I've ever, to either one of them, given an inch on what my beliefs are.
The conversation kicked off with Bill Maher casually asking Tim P's take on today's political landscape. Tim didn't hold back. He ripped into the growing divide, tearing the nation apart, warning about the dangerous extremes pulling both sides further away from common ground. But Maher wasn't there to play it safe. With a sharp gaze, he sparked a new fire, targeting the left. He claimed they just can't handle the fact that he's willing to engage with political opponents, especially Donald Trump. That statement alone sent shockwaves through the left, who were bracing for a showdown, but expected Maher to aim his fire at Tim P., not join forces with him. Together, they launched a fierce assault on the Democrats, cutting deep with ruthless precision. Yet, this was far from the grand finale. The real bombshell was still waiting to drop from Maher's lips. Trust me, you won't want to miss what he said next.
There are big problems, I think, politically. It's like this idea that we're the good people. We know we know what's good. And anyone who doesn't agree with that, well, they're an existential threat to America. And that happens on both sides.
I agree, but, you know, it is a weird position for me to be in. I was talking to some friends before the show, and I was saying, like, I think that if you and I discussed policy solutions for the country, I'd probably be to the left of you. But
in some ways, yeah.
Probably most ways.
You like Bernie.
I did.
I like Bernie, but I don't want socialism in America.
You know,
more than what we have. We already have plenty.
But the issue is, today I feel like what defines someone politically is not, it's not the policies they want, but it's what they believe to be true.
Correct, exactly. Yeah, Matt Taibbi writes about this.
I'm a big fan, he's amazing.
Though the conversation was just getting started, the tension was already thick, tightening like a noose. There's a dangerous comfort in always seeing yourself as the good guy, wearing the white hat while branding the other side as an existential threat to democracy. Maher doesn't deny this happens on both ends, and I agree. But let's be honest, it's far more rampant on the left. Maher knows this well, which is why he didn't hold back when he called out Bernie Sanders. Sanders, the outspoken socialist, presents himself as the moral compass of American politics while painting capitalists as villains who threaten to destabilize the country. But Maher wasn't convinced. In a sharp, calculated strike, he tore apart that narrative, delivering a classic Maher takedown. Brutal, precise, and unapologetic. Yet, even with that blow, you could tell he was just getting started. The real gut punch was still on its way.
Modus operandi of news organizations used to be informing the public, and then it became audience stroking. How can we interpret this thing that just happened in such a way that our audience will give us likes?
Yep.
I like that. I like you said it that way. I like your point of view because that's what I already think, and I hate them, and so I like.
He's right.
He's right.
Yeah.
No, and it's just.
I worked for ABC. Started ABC New Division did a joint venture in 2014 called Fusion, and I was at Vice, and I moved over there, and then they told me that the new trend was going to be called mission-driven storytelling, and I said, "What does that mean?" And they said, "There's no such thing as objectivity. Everyone is subjective, so we're going to tell the stories that our audience wants to hear." I had a meeting with the president, and he was talking to me about this, and I said, "Does that mean if there is a news story that is true and important, we would choose not to report it because it might upset our audience?" And he said, "Yeah, I think that's fair." The company went bankrupt. They fired everybody. But this wasn't unique to them. They were chasing the trend. One of their marketing guys told me explicitly, "We want to maximize shares because we have to maximize views."
Tim Pool dropped the harsh truth. Not exactly breaking news, but a stark reminder of what happens when journalism turns into performance. It's a textbook example of how biased reporting slowly eats away at a news network from the inside out. Viewers are craving something real, raw, unfiltered, balanced, and honest. Instead, the media races after clicks, chases ratings, and fuels outrage, sacrificing something far more precious, the public's trust. So is it any wonder the Democrats lost the election? Voters weren't fooled. They saw right through the echo chambers of left-leaning outlets like ABC. And if you think that's shocking, just wait. Pool's next point hits even harder.
Maximize views. We have to maximize views because we've already sold a set amount to the advertisers. One company bought 500,000 views from us. We don't complete that contract until those views are delivered. How do we deliver them? Angering moms. Middle-aged women who are angry share more than anyone else, so we're going to write stories that do that. That's actually what he told me. So it was social justice, it was racism.
I just pictured my writers all guffawing just because, I've had like a writer's room since 1993, Politically Incorrect.
Yeah, wow.
That show went on there. So
I was a little kid.
Yeah, I'm sure. And it's, the joy of my life. One of the great joys is having a writer's room. I've said this before, but like Paul McCartney once said, "I'd rather have a band than a Rolls Royce."
Tim dropped another bombshell, one that instantly hushed the room. You might be wondering, what does this have to do with the Democrats? Here's a question for you. When it comes to turning up the political heat, who's always leading the charge? The Democrats, who leans heavily into identity politics as if it's their go-to-campaign tactic. The DNC. When you step back and look at the pattern, it's hard not to connect the dots. This isn't just political posturing. It feels deliberate, driven by division, and engineered to provoke unrest. And if you think that sounds far-fetched, think again. All signs point to one unsettling possibility. The DNC may have been intentionally stirring chaos to serve their own political agenda. And believe me, what Pool reveals next takes this whole idea up to a completely new level.
Politics are like, if you were, I'm like a Chicago liberal, but the way things have gone, especially with like the woke stuff, this is where I end up in this position, and so does my neighborhood. I think it's interesting to see my neighborhood reflective of my politics and vice versa.
I think the phrase I was using last year was aggressively non-common sense or uncommonsensical. And it's like I accent aggressively. I don't think the woke people who have the vast amount of energy really in the Democratic Party understand why the people vote against them. And it's like, because if you add up like how many people are really affected by some of the aggressively uncommon sense things, it's probably not that many.
You had a great bit on that.
Yeah.
Many of you might be surprised to learn that Tim Pool is actually a liberal. Yep, you've heard that right. Not a conservative, not some far-right provocateur, but a genuine liberal. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Until the left distances itself from the aggressively woke faction within its own ranks, whether that group is a vocal minority or a quiet majority, the Democratic Party will keep bleeding votes. People like Pool didn't abandon the left because they stopped caring about civil rights, economic reform, or social justice. They left because the conversation was hijacked. Because now, even the slightest disagreement with progressive orthodoxy brands you a traitor. That's not political evolution. That's political exile. The DNC doesn't need a new brand. It needs a harsh reality check. Voters aren't turning conservative overnight. They're walking away because they're tired of being told what to think, what to say, and who they're allowed to question. If Maher and Poole are sounding the alarm, maybe it's time the left actually listens, before it's too late. And trust me, Maher's about to take this conversation to the next level. Watch this.
When you add up these things, and men competing in women's sports, and just too much indoctrination of children with sexual ideas that they're too young to understand. Like, when you add up all these things that get in the media a lot, it paints a picture, not a wrong picture, in the mind of the average voter that, yeah, maybe policy-wise I would do better under the Democrats or Bernie Sanders, but these other people just seem fucking crazy. They seem like committed to just going to absurd lengths just for shits and giggles, just for the fuck of it, just this bizarre attachment to things that are just ridiculous.
You could see the anger carved deep into Maher's face as he laid out the lineup of woke policies a left is poised to unleash the moment they gain full control. These weren't just political ideas. They were ideological landmines. If the far left had its way, they wouldn't merely reshape the country. They'd set it on fire. Maher didn't hold back. He warned that their agenda could drag society into a cultural and social nightmare. The most disturbing part, they're already testing these dangerous waters on our children. Maher zeroed in on one of the most chilling examples: policies allowing minors to undergo gender transitions without parental consent or even their parents' knowledge. Imagine a child making irreversible, life-altering decisions affecting their body and mind, while the very people responsible for their care are kept completely in the dark. That's not compassion. That's state-sanctioned chaos. This isn't just political overreach. It's a fundamental betrayal of trust. Maher's fury wasn't just justified. It was prophetic. Because if this is happening now, just imagine what they'll try to push next when no one's left to stand in their way. The question isn't if it will get worse. It's how much time we have before it does.
I do think that the way the Democratic Party has handled opposition has guaranteed the kind of Trumpian politics.
Well, I'm sure you heard about my little trip to the White House.
Absolutely.
And
very impressed.
Thank you. And the thing that upset the far left so much, these same people who believe in the crazy things I was just mentioning, and the ones who really hate me, they really found a new reason to hate me, because when I came back and gave my report about it, among the things I said, to your point about everything is he crazy, was, I think, word for word, a crazy person doesn't live in the White House. Mm. A person who plays a crazy person on TV lives in the White House.
Yeah.
And they found that very true.
And it's true. Bill Maher has been catching serious backlash lately, especially after his bold monologue suggesting that Donald Trump isn't actually crazy, and that maybe, just maybe, not everything the left says about him is gospel truth. That single statement sent shockwaves rippling through the liberal echo chamber. But here's the bigger picture. Don't hate someone just because the media tells you to. We live in a time when outrage is currency and headlines are engineered to provoke feelings, not to inform. The media thrives on division. It's their way of boosting ratings, driving clicks, and keeping you glued to the screen. Sure, most of us will never get a chance to sit down with Trump in the White House, but that doesn't mean we have to blindly accept the narratives spun by outlets with clear agendas. We can choose to listen to people who have actually worked with him, who've seen the man behind the headlines, not just the sound bites. The truth is often more nuanced than a headline and far less sensational than the news wants you to believe. So question what you're told. Think for yourself. Because once the media decides who your enemies are, you've already lost control.
But that was my estimation. Again, to your point about, is he just crazy? When you meet him in person and spend that kind of time, and he's not on his his attack mode thing, he does not strike you as a crazy person, or a person who doesn't listen or can't hear things. Again, they were very mad at me for saying this, but that's what happened. And I am not a liar. That's my main bond with the audience. So even if I offended some people by telling the truth, In the long run, that's what I do.
Exactly why so many people still tune in to hear Bill Maher speak. Love him or hate him, he doesn't twist the news just to serve an agenda. He calls out hypocrisy wherever he finds it, whether it's from the left, the right, or somewhere in between. In a world where most political commentators sound like cheerleaders for their own side, that kind of honesty shines like a lighthouse in the dark. Maher reminds us that it's possible to be objective even when you hold strong political beliefs. It's possible to embrace progressive values and still call out when your own side crosses the line. That kind of intellectual honesty is rare, but it's exactly what people are craving right now, because when everything feels politicized and every opinion turns into a battleground, voices like Maher's prove that critical thinking isn't dead. He may not always be right, but he's willing to question, challenge, and speak the truth as he sees it. And in today's climate, that's more radical than ever. So, whether you agree with Bill Maher or not, one thing's clear. He's not afraid to challenge the narrative, even if it means upsetting his own tribe. That's the kind of conversation we need more of. Think for yourself, question everything, and don't let the loudest voices drown out the truth. If you found this eye-opening, share it, talk about it, and stay tuned, because the real conversation is just getting started. If you loved it, remember to hit like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, stay sharp and stay curious.